Good morning. I just wanted to go over a couple of things about descending scales into the second partial on the valve. Just making sure that we're not bending too far with chops to get pitch or going too low because the slide's in the correct position and we're still manipulating either the air or the chops to get into the note. So I want to just show a couple little techniques for practicing this. The first thing I want to do is make sure that I've got the scale in pretty good shape in terms of positions. So let's just check C minor to start with. So we've got some diffusion in there, but essentially that's what I want. That's what my goal is, to be able to get down into that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the scale descending, all of this starting slow and moving faster, and I'm going to gliss from the F down to the C. When I gliss, I'm going to keep my corners set. I have to allow the aperture, the center of the lip, to go into the mouthpiece some, forward into the mouthpiece. But I'm not going to manipulate it so that I'm buzzing lower by either slowing the air too much or by widening the buzzing material of the lips. So here's the goal. Now, the natural harmonics of the trombone and the slide are going to work against that in a couple places in the gliss. So it may not always be a super smooth gliss, and if you go too slow, it may break up on you and diffuse on you a little bit. That's okay. What we're trying to do is just make sure that we're not overcorrecting with the corners of the chops, because I can manipulate like crazy down there. I can almost play a C in first position. It sounds awful, but I can almost do that. So the idea is to not be able to manipulate that. So if that's the goal, one thing you can do is pretend to manipulate it. So one thing I might do is actually gliss my notes down in that range, and then do a lip bend down into those notes, just to know exactly what it feels like that I'm not wanting to do. For me is it'll actually help me center where exactly I want to be on the open partial, so that I'm not too low on the open partial or too high on the open partial. So then there's a few things that you can do from there. One thing I like to do is, again, making sure that I'm not moving the chops. I'm allowing the aperture to move forward into the mouthpiece as I descend, and I'm allowing the slide to really take control of the pitch rather than me trying to control the pitch here. So another thing you can do is buzz. Now the buzz has a certain amount of manipulation down in that range. That's okay. What we're trying to do is find the minimum amount of manipulation we have to do. Put it on the horn, make sure that it feels right. When you're going slow, you're going to have to take a breath anywhere you need it. Don't worry about breaking the scale up with the breath. Okay, now we can actually add articulation back into this and see how that goes with the mouthpiece. So now we know where our tone placement is. Put it on the horn. It's okay if it breaks up a little bit too much articulation behind it. Then we can slow that down, speed it up from there, and we can go back to the gliss. Oops. You can also add the gliss in anytime you need it to make sure that you're really centered on each note. So hopefully all these little ideas will help you be able to develop moving into the low range this way. I would practice this with all your different types of scales, major, minor, harmonic, melodic, whatever you're working on in those ranges, to make sure that you're really able to do it on all the scales. And I would make sure that you're working on that in all of your scales that go down into the second partial on the valve. Even if it's an F scale that you're playing, like an F major scale, you can actually do the gliss all the way through the second partial on the open horn down to the F, like this. Whoops, I forgot. And you can practice that a couple different ways, eventually going into the valve. Making sure that you're centered all the way. So that gets into kind of the nitty gritty of how to be working into the second partial range on the valve. Hopefully some of those things help. Drop me an email if you're having issues with that. Thanks.